Well, it's here. One of the biggest metal albums of the year, Megadeth's Dystopia. They're often shadowed by Metallica, and of course the ironic thing is that Metallica might actually have a new album this year to shadow them again. But the really shadow here that they have to get past is the crappy one they made with Super Collider. And the last album, it was painful. It was just painful. I think any metal fan would admit that album was terrible. It's not Lulu bad, oh, God, but it's bad. It's just something Dave was trying to experiment with that failed. It just flat out bombed. Sometimes experimentation does that. But I think that he's put that behind him. I hope that he's put that behind them. Let's hope that much. And I think that with the combine of a new lineup here and some really focused songwriting without branching out to that crazy weird things he was trying to do, we'll get ourselves another killer album because Megadeth are pretty good at that, really. Aside from Super Collider, there haven't been a lot of bombs. So let's get into some history on Megadeth. Megadeth is an American thrash metal band from Los Angeles, California. They were formed in 1983 after guitarist Dave Mustaine was, fired from Metallica for doing too many hookers and cocaine on the road. With a note. They left a note. Kicked him out with a note and pretty much said, see ya, goodbye. So he created Megadeth to spite them. That was the honest truth of it. He was making an American metal band to challenge Metallica. Responsible for that, he went in to release Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good in 1985 on Combat Records. It was a moderate success. Bigger labels eventually paid attention to him and they were able to make a sign-on to Capitol Records, where they made their first major release of Peace Sells Who's Buying in 1986, which hugely changed the scene. Despite, its prominence in thrash metal, it definitely changed a lot of the metal scene at the time. From there, they went on to make tons of other huge albums. But it just began in such a dark area with him getting kicked out for, cocaine. But the funny thing is that Combat Records gave the band $8,000 to record the debut after spending $4,000 of the budget on drugs, alcohol, and, the band, the things that he got kicked out of Metallica for. They fired the original producer and finished the record themselves. So they spent half the money on drugs and then did it themselves without the album, needing the funds. It's like, we're not good at the money part. We'll just make the music. After that, they successfully made their way onto Peace Sells Who's Buying, and they went on to open for Alice Cooper on the Constrictor Tour. Following that, the tour was supported from huge things like Overkill and Necros over the United States. But Elfson eventually considered firing Samuelson for his drug abuse. Irony! There's just too much of that in this band. From there, they go on to So Far So Good, So What? It took another 5 months to record. The album was plagued with problems during production and partially due to Mustaine's struggle with drug addiction. He later said, it was horrible, mostly due to substances and priorities that we didn't have at the time. He clashed with Lonnie on several occasions, and Lonnie's insistence that the drums be recorded separately. Drugs be recorded. From there, a lot of it, they went on to make Rust in Peace in 91, and they played with Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash, and just kind of made it into the mainstream majorly. It took a while for them to make it into the mainstream, but Rust in Peace definitely did it. From there you go Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, Risk, The World Needs a Hero. Originally, Mustaine was hospitalized from the removal of a kidney stone in 2002 and administered pain on medication for his drug addiction. Following that, he checked himself into treatment where he suffered severe injury to nerve damage to his left arm. This was basically huge. He was unable to, move his arm much. He was diagnosed with radical neuropathy, which left him unable to grasp or even make a fist with his left hand. He announced to the release disbanding Megadeth to the arm injury and was unable to play guitar. For the next 4 months, he did physical therapy 5 days a week to reteach himself his left hand, to fulfill contract obligations. They released their next album, Still Alive and Well. The first half of the album consists of live tracks. He was still weak. But following that, they made The System Has Failed in 2004, basically to prove he could do it again. Following that, they did Gigantour with Slayer, Dream Theater, Anthrax, Fear Factory. Lots of bands were on Gigantour, pretty much. United Abominations came following it, and then Endgame, which was followed by 13, Super Collider, and Dystopia, which is today. They hired Chris Adler on drums from Lamb of God, and the guitarist is a new guy called Kiko Lario. And the change immediately works, because from some strange atmospheric background, the opener, The Threat is Real, is fired up more than ever. The song has probably the best drum and bass line of the album that I've heard, probably from them in a long time. New guitarist Kiko really keeps up with Dave and sets the pace here. The songs are strong and, of course, crazy political. That's what you expect. The song is a highlight and an absolute great single. From there, they move on to Dystopia with a more melodic start to it. It's got some past riff sounds, other hits, with dueling guitar solos that make this song catchy, but Chris Adler comes here to shine with the pounding double drum beats in the back. Double kick pedals for the win on that one. Fatal Illusion starts with a slowed down, angular chugging guitar line before breaking into this amazing bass solo, one of the best I've heard from Engelson. They follow this with a huge explosion of thrash and dueling guitar solos. Death from Within is a muted, pounding drum solo to start before absolutely one of the best riffs Dave has ever written, and a huge chorus with anthemic backing vocals. The guitar here is just awesome. The guitar solo gives you chills when you listen to this. Absolute highlight. Bullet in the Brain slows things down and starts with an acoustic riff, almost acoustic, and escalates from there. The riff doesn't stop, but waves great melodic solos over edgy riffs. The new lineup honestly pulls together great on this. Post-American World starts with a dark and grinding guitar line while Adler pounds the double bass in the background. It's a slower song, but it spits fire and hate throughout, as you can tell by the title. It's one of the most dark and angry songs on the album. He gives it that sound. Poisonous Shadow starts with a quiet, slow guitar solo that duels and builds around crazy solos. It begins to become a slow and haunting ballad, or at least as close as they get here. It's Megadeth. The vocals in the backing section are scratchy as always, but very catchy. It's got a full-blown orchestra, and they use it in a very cool way. Conquer or Die starts slow, before melodically changing with a beautiful Latin guitar solo, and escalates to a huge solo. It's just a great instrumental track. Lying State, don't worry metal fans, Lying in State kicks the thrash back in a little bit. I know they did a few slower ones, but this is full-on furious thrash. It comes in to T in the last-minute final guitar solo is the absolute highlight of the song, heaviest song on the album by far. The Emperor is a solid thrash song that rips through huge solos and shines. Everyone shines on it. No one can say that Dave phoned it in here. Again, they pull off surprisingly catchy chorus that ends with a blistering solo. And then we get to The Last Dying Wish, the closer. It's a strange closer coming from them. It's got kind of a punk shouted chorus sound. It's very punk lines and guitar solos. It's weird for them, but somehow the anger and instrumental skill helps them pull it off. This is a huge, blistering return for Megadeth. It's unbelievably huge. They managed to come back in a way that hasn't been heard since probably Endgame. I think Kiko Laredo especially works so well with Dave's lines. They weave together so well on guitar, and they just feel like a fit. And Chris Adler's drums, he's always been awesome, and he fits well in here just like he does everywhere. They went back to what they do best, and Dave focused, he put aside that creative endeavor that he did before, and really proved that his crazy xenophobic feelings could be made into a very angry political metal album. You know, if Dave bothers you, maybe this isn't the right band for you. But it's the right band for me, and so far it's the best metal album of the year. So far. 4.5 out of 5 stars. I mean, the whole album, but let's check out The Threat is Real, Fatal Illusion, Death from Within, and Lying in State. Thanks.